Welcome to our intermediate class today on the winter solstice. So happy solstice, everybody. And I wanted to talk a little bit about the solstice because it is such a wonderful time of celebration. And of course, we're celebrating the returning of the light. The days from today get longer each day until the summer solstice. So that's very exciting. But the other piece of the solstice that I think we tend to forget a little bit is honoring the darkness, right? So light and dark are really two sides of the same coin. And of course, we all want to celebrate the light, and that is just a wonderful thing to do. And in this year of a lot of darkness and challenges, it's such a welcome return of the light. At the same time, we want to also acknowledge that the dark exists. And within ourselves, we can think of that as the light is feeling that expanded feeling of no stress, of flow, of feeling really great in ourselves. And we all want to feel as much of that as possible. But the fact is that we are human. And there are times where we feel stuck, where we feel dark, where we feel depressed, where we feel crummy. And if we only celebrate the light, we forget to honor that darkness and how rich and how beautiful and how wonderful that dark place can be, even though it can be really challenging. But the growth that can come out of that when we really allow ourselves to feel the darkness without getting stuck. So there's this really fine line, right? So we don't want to spiral down into that dark place, but acknowledging the challenges, acknowledging the hard feelings and the hard times is really important to move through them. When we push things down, they have a way of popping back up when we least expect it, and it's rarely convenient when that happens. So I really encourage you in your celebration of the light today to honor the darkness, to honor the challenges of this year. There is a light at the end of the tunnel, but we still want to honor that it's been hard and there have been challenging times, and there will always be challenging times, right? So we expand into the light and we honor and contract in the darkness. We learn, we grow, and we become richer for those experiences. So today in our celebration, we'll be remembering that place as well, that place of richness, that womb-like kind of dark place where we can, when we really accept and move from that place, we can grow incredibly. So we're going to start with a little bit of seated work today. So if you have a cushion or a blanket or a mat you want to sit on, that might be handy. You can also sit on a chair if you prefer. So I will see you on the mat. So finding a comfortable position. And we'll start with a little bit of breath awareness. And with the breath awareness, I'll invite you to bring in that idea and that visualization of the balance of light and dark. Right? So darkness doesn't mean that we are always going to be in that place, but that we don't disregard it completely. So as you tune into your breath, you might visualize the inhale as an expanding force of light, drawing in light. And as you exhale, that contracting feeling of the exhale, drawing us inward more deeply into that womb-like place, darkness and growth. So each inhalation, feeling into the expansion of the light, the celebration of the solstice. And holding a little piece of that celebration as you exhale, honoring the darkness, honoring the parts of yourself that may feel some unease or dis-ease, that may be concerned or worried, that may be unsure. Acknowledging with care, with compassion, with as much kindness as possible. And then each next breath brings back the light. So always dipping our toes into the light with the inhale, dipping into the darkness with the exhale, and honoring and celebrating really both. We'll take maybe a minute or two with that visualization with the breath, quietly breathing together, honoring the dark, honoring the light. Take a few more breaths with this visualization. And we're going to add a little bit of movement to this visualization, to this intention with our breath. So as you inhale, creating some arch, lifting the heart, drawing the shoulders down and back, just lifting the chin slightly, not throwing the head back. And then as you exhale, rounding, softening, going inward. Inhale, expanding with the light. Exhale, moving inward into that rich, dark place. We don't want to get stuck in either place. Too much light, we start to become, I call it spiritual bypassing. You might have heard that term, where we deny anything that isn't positive or feel good and try to stay happy and joyful all the time. It's just not possible. So we don't want to get stuck in that place of fake joy. We also don't want to get stuck in a place of kind of spiraling downward into depression and focusing on what's not going well. So finding that balance. So we hold the light, but we don't clench the light. We hold and honor the darkness, but we don't stay there. Great. Let's add a little movement for the torso, circling around. And circle the other way as well. And then coming back to the center, let's turn the head to one side. We'll do a little sweeping motion across the front of the chest to bring the head up to the other side. And then again, a little sweep. And go side to side like this, moving at your own pace. So I always encourage you to really tune into what you feel in your body, whether it's pleasant or unpleasant. Same idea. We tend to ignore the pain in our bodies until it sort of screams at us and miss things that could maybe easily be dealt with if we dealt with it in a timely manner. So really also tuning into what's not feeling so great in our bodies, and with the same idea of not dwelling there, but noticing and checking in and being present with ourselves for the good and the not so great. So we're going to stretch the legs out now and give them a little shake. And if you're comfortable with your legs straight, that's fine. If you want to come back to a cross-legged position, then feel free to do that as well. We'll bring the palms together, pressing the palms together until you feel the muscles across the shoulders and chest engage, feeling some stretch into the arms, the hands, and the wrists. You can also take the heels of your hands a little further apart to stretch the fingers back gently a little bit. And then take the backs of the hands together, fingertips down, and gently press the hands together there. And then you can do some rotations. So just rolling the hands around in whatever way feels right. The hands can be together as mine are, forward and back, or you can do this separately, going both directions. Okay, and then take the arms out to the sides, let the hands hang. Let the shoulders drop down and feel the stretch in your arms, if any. You may not feel much here. And then slowly start to engage and lift the fingers. So fingers spread, hands, fingertips lifting. And then down, let them hang. And slowly lift. Good. Keeping the hands in this position, we'll do some circles with the arms, just little circles, feeling the stretch and the sensation in the arms. Make your circles a little bigger if you like. big circles. Maybe one more big circle. And then coming back to the side, and you may feel that you're starting to work a little bit now. You may feel your arms getting a bit tired. And see if you can just stay with it for a little bit longer. If you feel like you're straining or clenching or there's pain there, obviously come out. And then let's make the hands into fists. And we'll do a few circles with the fists before we release this position. Okay, and then finish stay. And then let your arms relax onto your lap or on your thighs. Just notice for a moment how your shoulders and arms feel. Let's come back to that cat-cow movement, lifting the heart, breathing in the expansiveness of the light, exhaling and dropping into that fertile darkness. If a seed was never placed in the darkness, it would never grow. And if we only turn our face to the light and only focus on the light, we also stunt our own growth. So inhaling the light, exhaling into the richness and fertility of the dark. Lovely. Let's make our way over onto all fours now, get a little more warm up for the spine and the hips. Coming into Chakravakasana or cat-cow. So inhaling from all fours, and as you exhale, you can round your back and shift back to child's pose. And continue that movement. Go at your own pace, and if it feels right for you, you might stay with that idea and visualization of light on your inhale, and softening into the darkness on your exhale. Expanding into the light with your inhale. Moving into that fertile dark place with your exhale. A few more like that. And then vary the movement. So maybe circle the hips around. Yeah, go slowly and tune into every little nuance of sensation. And so often we're rushing through life and kind of ignoring our bodies because they're inconvenient at times. So let's really tune in, honor our bodies, honor our full selves. Okay, and then coming back to all fours. Let's take one leg and stretch up. And then exhale and draw it in. Inhale, stretch up. Exhale, draw in. Inhale. Exhale, come in. And then if you like, you can stay a few breaths. Try flexing your foot and imagining that leg being parallel to the ground. And if you want to challenge yourself a little more, take the opposite arm and reach it out. And then come back. And then we'll work with the other side. So stretching back, breathing in, drawing in, rounding. A few more like that. Right, and then next time the leg is stretched out, by flexing the foot, finding it parallel to the ground position with the leg, and also trying to find it flat across the hips, so you're not turning to the side here. And then again, if you want more challenge, take the opposite arm, extend it overhead, and breathe. Bring that arm down, we'll come back to a few rounds of cat-cow. or all fours to child's pose. So if you want to stay more upright for this and just round and arch the spine, great. If you want to add child's pose, please feel free. When you come down into child's pose, you can bring the elbows in underneath your shoulders. So you're in kind of a modified child's pose. And then just do a little movement for your wrist here. So you can do a little bit more with the hands on the ground. So you'll make sure you're not creating strain. So anytime you feel any kind of stress with your wrist, come on down, come to this position, or even in child's pose and do a little movement with your wrist. So we're going to come back up to the center. So I'm going to talk about the side, left and right, so that it's easier for you to follow along. So you're going to take your left leg and you're going to pivot on your knee. So knee stays where it is. You'll take the foot out to the side a little bit. And we're going to put the weight onto that knee and stretch the other leg back with the inside of your foot on the ground. The weight then shifts to that arm that's on the same side as the knee that's under you. And you'll lift up the opposite hand. So it's a kind of modified side plank. We've got the knee under us, so it's taking a lot of the weight off the wrist. Good. And then coming back down, bringing the knees back under you. And then your right leg will pivot out to the side. Left foot will step back, the inner edge of your left foot on the ground. Take your weight onto your right hand and turn your body so that your right shoulder is under your left shoulder. And reach up. Couple breaths here. And then we'll come on back down. Lining up your knees underneath your hips. And again, a few rounds of all fours to child's pose. And you can start to bring in downward dog. As you do this movement, each breath, you can help yourself stay focused by breathing in light and breathing, as you breathe out, sinking into and softening into the idea of the fertile ground of darkness. Alternating between child's pose and downward dog a few times, following your breath, staying mindful and present. Right. And then coming down to all fours, have your toes tucked under, a little stretch for the arches of your feet, and walk yourself back so that you're bringing more weight over your feet. Now, this can be quite intense, so you may want to just stay where I am now with your weight off your feet a little bit. If it feels okay to you, you can start to sit up a little bit more. Really honor your feet. So if you're feeling like you're jamming up your big toe joints, keep more weight forward. Okay. If your toes don't bend all the way so that the tops of your toes are on the mat, that can be a strain to your toes as well. So really honor what you're discovering in your body as you try this position. The more upright you sit, the more weight is on your feet and the more stretch in the arches and the toes. So from here, you may be ready to come out of this pose quite quickly. If you like it, stay a little longer, but when you're ready, you can bring your fingertips down, lift your knees to come into a squat. And you want to try to keep your heels actually up off the ground for this one, so it's working a little bit more on balance. You can bring your hands up and then see if it's possible to stand up on your tiptoes. If not, just bring your hands down, do what you need to come up, right? And then you can lower your heels. Good. Just give your legs and your arms a little shake. We'll do a little bit of work for the feet, the ankles, the legs, get nice and grounded here. So we'll take one foot ahead of the other. And it's about the same distance as if you were taking a regular step, so not a lot. And your back foot is more or less pointing forward. It can be slightly out to the side because that's how we would normally, most of us, walk anyway. Bend to both knees till you feel some stretch in your back ankle. So just kind of sitting, resting your body over your legs, not sitting, standing, but in that sort of relaxed stance. And then let's switch sides. The same thing on the other side. Bending both knees. You want your weight more over your back leg than your front leg. You're going to feel that more weighted feeling stretch into the back heel, back ankle. And then coming back to mountain pose, I'm going to do the opposite stretch. So the front of the ankle. So you're going to take the top of your foot down. And you're not really putting pressure down unless you need more stretch. For many people, this is quite an intense stretch as it is. But if you feel like you need a little more pressure, press down gently. If your foot starts to cramp, you're going to turn your toes over and stretch out the arch of your foot. If you want, you can roll from your baby toes to your big toes, moving that stretch across the top of your foot. Okay, and then we'll switch. So again, top of the foot down. You can just let the weight of your leg create the stretch, or if you want more, put a little deliberate pressure downwards, and then maybe roll big toes to baby toes, moving that stretch across your foot in a way that feels good. So if it's really intense or your foot starts to cramp, again, you'll turn the toes over and stretch the arch, which is of course the stretch we did sitting on our heels. Okay, bringing that foot back to the center. So let's take a bigger stand this time, bigger stance, a little wider, and back toes still pointing forward, heel coming to the ground or almost to the ground, and then hands on the front knee. We're going to press that heel back, and what you can do is actually lift and lower. And if you want more stretch, you're going to take the foot a little further back. So you can lift, pressing into the toes, lifting the heel, and then pressing down the heel toward the ground. So my heel's not quite coming to the ground, which gives me a really nice big stretch in the calf. And then I'm going to lift up and engage the calf, and then press down and lengthen. So if your stance is shorter, you'll bring the heel down and you won't feel any stretch because there's not quite enough distance there. Right. And then let's switch sides. So same here, hands on the front knee, finding the position of the back leg where you feel a nice stretch in the calf, and then you can lift and come down. Lift and release. So working to bring some spaciousness and expansion into the legs. And expansion is light. Expand, the light just expands and expands and expands. One little candle can fill a whole room. And then the other piece, that darkening, dropping into the earth piece, when we stretch the legs and really bring awareness to the legs, we feel a lot more grounded. So let's step the feet together and pause for a moment. So come to mountain pose. Feel your lower legs, which is what we've been working with mainly here. From the knees down. Feel your roots go down into the earth. Imagine the darkness under the earth, the richness of the soil, and your roots going down into that rich, dark place to provide foundation, grounding. And that grounding foundation of deepening into the darkness allows us to be fully supported in our expansion in our light. So from that place of deep grounding, let's inhale and lift, expand, let the heart lift. And then exhale, slowly release. Feel your heels go down, feel the roots go down as you exhale. Inhale, expand and gather light. Exhale, soften and sink into the roots. A couple more like that. And let's add a forward bend. So inhale now, soften your knees as you exhale. Sweep the arms down toward the ground. Let the head release completely. And then inhale, come up. So same idea, same visualization. Inhale, reaching for the light. Exhale, surrendering into the darkness. Letting your head go, maybe even pausing here for a moment and then coming back. So each breath reminds us not to get stuck in focusing on the light and becoming unbalanced in that way, but also not to focus so much on the dark and becoming unbalanced that way. You can stay in the forward bend, soften the knees. You can even let the belly come to rest on the thighs, and that really gives a nice release to the low back. Head can soften, arms can hang, or you can fold your arms if you like. Another option is elbows on the thighs, a little gentler approach to the forward bend. And then we'll inhale and come all the way up. And exhale to release. Okay, let's take one foot forward now, the other foot back in the stance that we would use for warrior. And we'll work on stretching the hamstrings, the back of the front leg here. So if you have blocks or a chair and that's useful for you to reach down for, great. If you can reach the ground and that's available, that's great too. We'll inhale and lift. And then exhale, come forward. You can keep that front knee bent, fingertips to the ground or your blocks or your chair, whatever you've got. And let your head relax. You can move the front foot back or forward to get a good, comfortable position. And then we're going to bend and straighten very gently the front leg. Straighten does not mean it needs to come straight. So you're going to go until you feel good stretch. It's not too much, not too little on your hamstrings, that front leg. Okay, and then if you find a place that's comfortable, that feels like a good stretch and you can stay for a few breaths, go ahead and stay. If you want to think a little bit more on the finer alignment details, you can think about your hip on the back, so coming forward and down a little. The hip of the forward leg moving back a little. And then as we come upright, you're going to start to bend that front knee so it comes over the ankle. You're going to lift upright, and we'll start by bringing the hands onto the hips. And then you want to think about letting your belly button go back and your tailbone go down a little bit until you feel an opening in the front part of your back hip. So the last one was working on the back part of the front leg. This is the front part of the back leg. So you can take whichever leg is forward, you can take that hand onto your hip. And then the other hand is going to reach up as if you're really lengthening this line from the fingertips above to the foot behind you and feeling this stretch all the way up through the hip, even into the side of the lower abdomen, and reaching along that line. Lovely. When you're ready, bring that arm down, step your feet together. Just take a moment to notice, what do you feel? What are you aware of? Notice your left leg, your right leg. What feels different? And then we'll move to the other side. So same thing, but opposite leg forward. So you've got whichever leg was back before is forward now. The other leg is back. You want to turn your back foot a little to the side so that your heel can stay planted. You're going to bend your front knee as you inhale and lift both arms. And then exhale, keeping the knee bent. Move forward, hands to whatever is available. Head down. And then very slowly start to move that front leg a little straighter until you feel like that's enough, and then bend it. And it might be just, a couple of degrees each time, and that's totally fine. Honoring your body, tuning in and noticing, not forcing or pushing it. After a few times, if you can find a place that feels like a good stretch where you're not straining or forcing, you can relax there and stay for a few breaths wherever it feels right. So again, this leg does not have to be straight. My leg isn't straight. It doesn't need to be to feel the right amount of stretch. Sometimes what happens when we straighten the leg is we tend to really round the back, and then we get more pull in the back, less in the leg, and it's actually not what we're looking for here. So when you're ready to come up, you're going to lift upright. Start by bringing the hands onto the hips. So your back naturally arches when the front knee is bent and the one leg is ahead of the other. We're going to try to bring a little of that arch out of the back by engaging the belly button back to, or engaging the abdominal muscles, bringing the belly button back toward the spine, and thinking about the tailbone dropping down. So the pelvis is naturally tilted a little forward, and we're trying to bring it back level. And when we do that, we'll often feel a bit of stretch in the front of the back hip. And bring the hand that corresponds to your front leg onto your hip, and then extend the other arm up. And really imagine growing that line from your back heel, those roots going deep, deep, deep into the earth, all the way through the body, lifting up to the fingertips that are reaching for the light. So you've got the root going down into the earth, the arm reaching into the light, and we're the conduit between the two. All right, let's bring that arm down and step the feet together again. And again, pause to notice how your body feels after that little series of stretches for the legs. Let's do a few forward bends to balance again. So taking the arms up, reaching and expanding into the light. Exhaling, soften and release and surrender into the darkness. Let the knees bend, let the head release. And then coming all the way up. Take your time, do this at your own pace. If you like, you can add the half forward bend. So after the forward bend, hands come to shins. You lift up halfway, breathing in and then release with an exhale. And a couple more at your own pace. Next time you come to the forward bend, if your body says yes to staying for a few breaths, go ahead and stay again. Maybe elbows on thighs or hanging down. Wherever you are, try to let your head release. And then as you're ready, you'll come up. And slowly release back to Tadasana. Find a few balancing breaths here, breathing in the expansiveness of the light, honoring and celebrating the light today. Exhaling and sinking in a little bit to that darkness, honoring and surrendering to the darkness. And then we're going to move into some sun salutations, because what would a solstice class be without sun salutations? So making sure you've got some room behind you. Drop down into your heels, lift through the heart. Again, really tuning into that, moving downward into the fertile soil with your roots, opening and expanding to receive the light with your upper body, just like a plant. And then inhale and lift the arms, breathing in. You lift the gaze if you like, and then exhale, soften into your forward bend. Inhale, hands to shins, lengthen. Exhale, fold forward. You take the right leg and step back into lunge. If you like, you can inhale and lift up in your lunge. And then exhale and come forward and step back to plank. Pause here in plank. Try to find strength in the body. All the way from the feet to the head. Nice long line. And then lowering the knees. You can also do this without lowering the knees, but lowering the knees is easier. And then come down to the ground. And then from there, pressing down into the hips, into the thighs, into the tops of the feet, anchoring the lower body into the earth. Find lightness as you lift the chest and head into cobra. A couple of breaths here. Lifting to all fours. Shifting back to child's pose for a couple of breaths. Coming into that dark, fertile place. Breathing here. And coming back up to all fours. Breathing in, letting the chest come forward, beaming your light into the world. And then exhale, moving back inward in downward dog. That inward focus pose, knees bent, long spine. Breathing here, looking back toward your knees or your feet. So the neck is long. And then we'll step forward. With the same foot you stepped back. The right foot steps back, right foot will step forward, or vice versa. If you like, you can also, again, lift up in lunge with the breath in. Release forward with your exhale and step forward. Inhaling, hands to shins, finding length. Exhaling and releasing. Inhaling, lifting all the way up. And exhale to release. Pause for a moment again. Roots go down. Heart lifts and expands and opens. We'll move into our second sun salutation. Inhale, lifting. Exhale, soften your knees, sinking into that darker or fertile place. Inhale, letting the heart shine forward, and exhale, releasing. Step the left leg back this time. Think about squaring the hips, bringing the hands to the knee, lifting the torso. And whichever hand is on, whichever leg is forward, so if you have your right leg forward like me, you're going to keep your left hand on your knee. And you'll reach forward with the right arm. And then we're going to swing that arm back and turn to face that way in a bit of a twist. This hand is facing palm. You may not tell by the video, but my palm is facing back. So the back of my hand is facing the video. Reaching back, then we're going to swing that arm up. The other arm can lift up as well. Hands down and come to plank. So from plank, let's lower the knees. And we're going to come into that side plank that we tried earlier. So you can do it, and I'll show you the way we did it earlier. I'll also show you a more challenging way if you like. So your left knee will pivot, or your left leg will pivot out with the knee on the ground. You're going to come onto your left hand and reach the right leg back, and then lift up. Now, if you want to do this in a more challenging way, instead of going from all fours, you'll go from plank. You'll turn to the side. Feet can be stacked or one in front of the other, and lift up from there. Coming down to plank, lower the knees. Let's go to child's pose for a couple of breaths. And then we'll come back, same thing, so either stepping the feet back to plank and coming into the side plank with the knees up, or you can pivot the right leg, stretch out the left, and come into the modified version. All right, coming back to the center. Let's come back to plank. Again, you can either lower the knees, which is going to be easier, or you can go straight from plank. You're going to push up to the ground. From there, lifting into cobra, pressing down into the hips and thighs. Couple of breaths here. We'll lift back up to all fours. Come back to child's pose for a few breaths. And then again, back to all fours. And if you're following the side that I've been working on, you're going to come into downward dog and then step the left foot forward. It doesn't matter which foot it is as long as it's the opposite side lunge that you were in earlier. You're going to lift up, hands to knee. Whichever leg is forward, the opposite hand. So my left leg is forward, right hand on my knee. Left arm reaching up, my palm is facing towards the camera at the moment. And I'm going to keep it facing that way as I reach back and turn my body, maybe looking back at the backhand. Nice and upright, swinging back through, lifting both arms. Exhale forward and step your feet together. Inhale, hands to shins, lengthening. Exhale, release, soften your knees, soften your neck. Pause here for a couple of breaths. And we'll come all the way up, breathing in. Exhaling to release. Lovely. We added a few different elements to that sun salutation. And we'll go back to just a nice easeful flow for our next sun salutation. So digging down into the heels, lifting through the heart. Let's come back to our theme. Each breath in, inviting in the expansive feeling of life. Each exhale, sinking your roots down into the dark, fertile soil. And then inhaling and lifting the arms. Let the heart lift and then sinking into that dark, quieter place within. Taking a breath or two here. And then hands to shins, heart shines forward, receiving the light. Exhale, softening into the darkness again. Okay, let's take the right leg back. Inhale and lunge, lengthening. Exhale, comes to downward dog. You can spend a couple of breaths in downward dog, maybe walking on the spot. Whatever feels good here. And then lowering the knees to the mat. Take a breath in, let the heart shine. Expand with light, and then exhale, softening into that contemplative space of going inward in child's pose. Stay there for a few breaths. And then coming back up to all fours. Exhaling, toes tuck under, lifting into downward dog. And then the right foot will come forward. Take a breath here and lunge, and then step forward with the left foot, head down, inhaling, hands to shins, lengthening. Exhaling to release. Inhale all the way up. And exhale, softening and releasing again. So again, coming to mountain pose, coming back to this visualization of roots going down, digging into the darkness. Right? Without that aspect, nothing would ever grow. If the roots didn't go down, if the seed wasn't planted in darkness, nothing would grow. But at the same time, feeling an expansion, a lift in the heart. And then we also, if we stay in that dark place under the earth, we're not growing either. So finding that real balance of going in and down and then up and out. Celebrating both aspects of the solstice, both aspects of our beautiful and challenging human existence. Let's take your feet apart, hands to your hips, soften your knees, do a few circles, releasing any tension, especially after some of the strengthening poses like lunge and side plank, just letting go of any of that accumulated effort in your body. You can roll the shoulders, one and then the other, letting the body be so natural and flow, whatever feels good. So if it feels better to go forward or smaller circles or bigger circles, honoring whatever that is for you. And then coming back to the center, back to mountain pose. We'll come to a forward bend, we'll stay there for a bit, and then we'll start to make our way back down onto the ground. So breathing in, finding that lift. And let's pause here in extended mountain pose. The head can be slightly lifted, but you don't want to feel like you're straining your neck. Palms facing each other overhead and shoulders gently relaxing down. If you want to challenge yourself a little more, raise up onto your toes. Okay. And then as you start to lower the arms, you can lower the heels, soften the knees, come into that ragdoll pose where you're just hanging over your legs. Of course, if it's more comfortable, elbows to thighs, you can cross your arms and hold your elbows. We'll come back to the mat similarly to how we got up. We're going to come back down to a squat, lifting the heels. From the squat, you can walk your hands forward, coming down onto your knees. And then coming back to moving from all fours to child's pose a few times. Really starting to move a little more inward even. You close your eyes as you do this movement and come back to our feet with the breath. Lifting into the light, expanding the heart into the light, and softening into the darkness, into the foundation, into the earth. And the breath reminds us not to get stuck in either place. Both places are rich and full of divinity, totally sacred. It's not like the dark is bad and the light is good, although we may have been taught that. Both are equally fertile, rich, and beautiful. If you like, you can rest for a few breaths in child's pose, whatever version suits you. And if you're a lover of child's pose and you want to stay in this nice compact little pose a bit longer, then absolutely feel free. When you're ready to make a shift, you can come down onto your back on the ground, and you can just wait there, coming back to your breath, back to this idea of each breath creating a balance between darkness and light, reminding us that both are crucial to being fully integrated as human beings. Check your body for tension. If you find yourself holding tension maybe around your jaw or your face, shoulders, your hands, and anywhere in your body. You can bring a little bit of awareness to that area, and as you exhale, find a little softening. And then arms out to the side, just a little away from the body. The feet can come in about hip distance apart. And then letting the knees go to one side as the head gently releases the other way. Coming into a twist. Back to the center, and twisting the other way. If you're coordinating breathing, inhale as you come to the center, exhale as you go to either side. Okay, and then eventually making your way back to the center. Then lift your hips up and bring them back down in a way that feels aligned again. And then knees to chest. And drawing the knees forward and back to stretch and release the lower back. Bring the hips and lower back to alignment. Breathing in as the knees move away. Breathing out as the knees move towards you. And then arms overhead, legs toward the ceiling. Breathing in and reaching out. And then exhaling and squeezing in. Same visualization as we've been working through the class. Breathing in and expanding with light. Exhale and honoring, celebrating the darkness. And gradually letting the feet come to the ground. You can allow the soles of the feet to come together. The knees apart. If you want to put some props like blocks or blankets or cushions under your knees to support them, please do if you need that support. Then arms out to the side. We'll take a few breaths here in this open, expanded position. Breathing in light, breathing in space, expansion. And then slowly bringing the knees together and bringing them into the chest. You can either take your hand to each knee or maybe even wrap your arms around your legs, coming into a small little ball, contracting into the darkness. A few breaths here. You might find that it's harder to breathe when you're all crunched in. If that's uncomfortable, let go a little bit, or find where the breath does move when you're limiting the space where it normally moves. Slowly releasing the legs, stretch them out on the ground, stretch the arms up overhead, reach from heels to fingertips, feel your body expanded now with light. Big breath in, and as you exhale, you can lower the arms, and we'll prepare now for Shavasana. So if you want your knees bent again, go ahead and bend your knees. If you prefer to sit up, you can go ahead and sit. And if there's any props or blankets that you would like to bring in to make it more comfortable, take a moment to get yourself organized, get settled, and get to our Shavasana. So as you come to settle, come back to your breath, back to this very gently and subtly, this idea of breathing in expansiveness. Light is expansive. It spreads out to fill the space. And let the breath spread out to fill the space within you. As you exhale, contracting into the darkness, feel yourself going inward with your exhale, softening. And then let your breath just come to you. And each breath is this gentle expansion in light, contraction into dark. And as you breathe with this awareness, letting the muscles of your body soften. As you exhale, feel the sort of surface of your body letting go a little bit. Letting the weight of your head sink down, shoulders, the hips, feet, wherever your body makes contact with the ground, softening and sinking into that space of darkness. Honoring that darkness. Integrating that darkness. And as you breathe in, feeling the expansion, soft opening of the body. Dropping down with each exhalation. Start to check in a little more subtly. Notice if you're holding tension in the jaw or the belly, the buttocks. Soften where you can. Keep scanning more and more subtly in the body, letting go, gripping or holding wherever you notice it. Breathing in, expansion, opening, light. Breathing out, softening, sinking down, contracting, darkness. On the solstice, we honor the return of the sun while remembering the roots and darkness that we all possess. I'll share with you a chant that honors the sunrise, and it imagines the sunrise as a young woman, a beautiful young woman, rising from the darkness, from that place of gestation, of growth, to shine forth in all of her beauty with the sunrise. Aya Tuvarada Devi Aksharam Brahmasamhitam Gayatri Chandasa Mata Idam Brahma Jushat Vanaha Om Tatsaviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dio yo na prachodayate. So as always, if you feel that you want to stay a little longer in Shavasana, go ahead and stay. Let your body take the time it needs to integrate the practice. And if you're ready to move on, you can start to breathe a little more deeply. Wiggle your fingers and your toes. Eventually stretching and moving your body in whatever way would feel good. Eventually rolling onto your side if you are coming out of Shavasana. And use that transition to very gently make your way back to seated when you're ready. And then when you come back to a seated position, if you come back to a seated position, bring your palms together. Take a couple of breaths here again with this idea of honoring all of ourselves from the highest heights to the lowest lows. Not trying to eradicate or push away anything, welcoming it all with compassion, with love, with care, with support. And from that place, honoring the light within all of us as we say the word namaste, namaste. I should say honoring the light and the dark in all of us. Have a beautiful holiday and a great, great day, or whatever day it is. If it's not a great day, just be with that. Love yourself, honor yourself.